Hey everybody, so today I'm going to be joined by my good friend Mr. Brendan Murphy. How we doing, Brendan?
Doing good, Fletch. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So today we're going to be talking about David Lowery's new film, The Green Knight, which just came out this past weekend. Brendan and I both have seen it twice now. It's very much a movie that you kind of need to process on your own time, and I definitely probably wouldn't have felt comfortable talking about it over on this channel without having seen it twice because there's just so much to digest and pick up on when you watch it a second time. So this is just going to be a very free-form discussion about the movie. We're just going to talk about some things that we like, some stuff that stood out to us. We may come across some spoiler territory, and I'm just going to say it just might happen. So if you haven't seen the film yet, consider yourself warned that we may go into spoiler detail about some of the scenes in this movie. I've only ever seen one other film by David Lowery, and that is A Ghost Story, which I really enjoyed. I think it's a terrific movie. It has a lot of the same qualities as this movie, where it's very much like
Mhm.
his own weird, strange vision, but he just like kind of put it out there, and like whoever liked it, whoever didn't. And he's just from that movie, I always like really respected this guy, and I think he has a really interesting creative vision, and that's a really good movie though. So if you haven't seen that, you definitely should check it out. But so that was a big part of the reason why I was excited for this movie because um, I think David Lowery has a really interesting creative vision, and I was really interested to see what he would do with this old tale. And he did a pretty damn amazing job. I love this movie. And yeah, it's been a while since I've gone to the theater and seen something that was just so unique and so different. And just, it just feels like such an uncompromised creative vision from one guy, you know? And it kind of reminds me of what like Ari Aster did with Hereditary or Robert Eggers with The Lighthouse. A lot of these A24 movies that sometimes like I can't even believe actually get like a wide theatrical release because like it seems like they cater to so few people. But that's part of what's cool about movies like this, that it just does not give a fuck what you think about it. They just take this vision and then put it out there and people will see it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just think it's really cool. And first of all, the visuals in this movie are just absolutely incredible. Like every other scene.
Making the argument like, guys, you know how this movie looks so good? They just shot in a place. That's all they did. Like, that's all we have to do is just like go to locations. Like, they really use Ireland to like its fullest extent in this movie. Everything looks fantastic. Like you were saying, like there are just so many shots of even just like him walking around where I'm just like, give me like 30 minutes of this. That's all I need. Like just him walking around these landscapes. Like, and I'm
Totally.
in.
And
Uh,
the one of the best shots in the movie, I think, is that there's that whole bit where he's canoeing and there's like the yellow fog everywhere. That
mhm,
just looks so incredible. And that one scene like really stuck out to me in terms of visuals.
for sure. There's that. There's like when he's doing the little side quest for Winifred, where he like
Yeah, yeah.
jumps in the water, and it's just like once he goes in, it just like becomes super trippy and like fun. There's the mushroom sequence. That's a decent time.
That's
There's
great.
just a lot of fun visual stuff, and I mean, just like even aside from just how good the movie looks, like how beautiful the landscape is, how they use it to their advantage to really give the film that like older texture that it needs to feel like an old King Arthur tale. Um, it's a movie that like really takes its visual storytelling as like a badge of honor. In the pandemic and everything has felt like such a steady stream of, I hate to call it this, but like it has really started to feel like just like
Yeah.
content, just like feeding you and feeding you. And like I've been like looking for those movies that like give you the like, oh, this is a movie. Like I feel like I'm watching a movie right now. Like I feel like I'm actually like I have that feeling right now. Like, and this had that. Like I've only had that like a couple other times since all this started. And I feel like obviously not being able to go to movie theaters, not being able to have that like experience, like making an event of it has really taken a lot of that away. But I remember just sitting there kind of stunned at like the first 30 minutes of this movie, like all the way up until the Green Knight just fucking runs out on his horse laughing with his head in his hand. Like I was just like, oh my god.
What a killer opening scene. Like
Yeah.
that whole just beginning is incredible. And the something I really appreciated was that um, the look of the Green Knight himself, like it's all practical. It's all just like a real costume, and he looks like a real character that like exists in this world. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I thought that was something really cool. So Gawain, or however you say it,
Mhm.
he's yeah, it's kind of interesting to watch him like question all this stuff and like find his honor and find his courage and some like the second time I watched it, I really picked up more on like a lot of the themes of the movie and like
Mhm.
how he goes on his journey. And there's kind of all these challenges put in his way leading up to the final scene in the movie.
Mhm.
And he fails in a way in all of them, or
Yeah,
he doesn't take the honorable way out. He kind of just takes the easy way out. But then by the end of it, he gains his courage and he gains his honor and he realizes what being a knight is about. So like it's interesting to watch him go through that journey, like always being a coward, always being always not amounting to the greatness that he wants to have, and then finally like getting that towards the end. It's just interesting to watch that arc play out. And kind of like
for
you
sure.
said, so much of the movie is just visual storytelling, and so a lot of that journey for his character and like watching that arc play out is not necessarily told through dialogue. It's mainly just like visual storytelling.
For sure. I mean, going back to Dev Patel too, like you can just read it on his face the whole movie. Like as much as he's trying to posture as like he's a knight, he is King Arthur's nephew. Like he's got a big bad axe that he's hanging around with. Like he's got the Spock's buddy that's hanging. Like there's a lot of cool stuff like on the surface, but like in his eyes, on his face, you can just read this like kind of scared kid the whole time. Um, and there are even moments like you said, like even moments that are like kind of triumphant or even kind of where he wins, I guess if you want to say that. Like I keep going back to the Winifred line of like when he asks, if I get you this, what would you do for me in return? She's just like, why would you ask me that? And like stuff like that, where it's just like, even if I do this now, I asked that question and I feel like kind of a piece of shit for doing it now because I should have just helped this lady out who lost her head. Like, why can't I just do that? I'm gonna be in this similar position in a little bit. Why can't I help her out? Why should like
Uh,
I love the whole. What are you searching for in all this? And he's like honor, and I love the whole like, is that a question? Are you asking me? Like I love
yeah.
just how he's proceeding like how he thinks he's supposed to. Like
Since you were talking about Dev Patel, um, the first time I saw it, I thought he was good, and I thought he did a really good job, but it didn't quite hit me like how good his performance is in this movie until the second time I saw it.
Mhm.
And specifically, I think the best acting from him comes from the montage sequence right towards the end of the movie, where um, I guess this will kind of get into like our interpretations of it, but so I'm assuming that that whole sequence was him seeing what would have happened if, you know, he didn't take the honorable route and he left the Green Knight and didn't have the blow returned to him, and that it actually like didn't happen in real life, and that he actually went the other way, and you know he dies off screen, but like that's what happened, what would happen after the last scene in the movie, but. So in this vision that he's seeing of what would happen if he just went back home and didn't have the blow return and didn't complete the quest,
Mhm.
you see just how his life would have crumbled and turned into this like
Mhm.
guilt-ridden, shameful mess where he was just this like disgusting king that
Yeah.
didn't amount to anything, didn't have that honor and that courage that he's searching for. If you just watch his face in this whole sequence, you
Mhm.
can like see the shame on his face and the like the depression and the guilt of like what he's done and like what he's turned his life into. And I just
Mhm.
thought that look alone is just like incredible acting on his part, and he's not even saying anything.
Yeah. Like obviously the vision we see isn't a very long and happy life, but like, he wants to, he has things he wants to eventually do. He, like he said, like he's starting to finally find who he is as a person, and then he's going to get his head chopped off. So obviously he's not necessarily ready. But I think I like how this movie, I don't know how you feel about the ending. I don't know if you think he lives or dies or like anything like that. But like I just love how it ends on that victory of just him owning up to it and just being I'm ready. I just think
Yeah,
that that's
totally.
great. I think that's, and I was reading a interview with Lowery and Patel earlier this morning, and just how just like if we showed you whether he gets his head chopped off or if he doesn't get his head chopped off, it's like it's redundant either way. It doesn't matter just because like he's accepted his role and he's accepted like what he needs to do to be the person he wants to be at the end
Mhm.
of the movie.
Yeah, it's less about like the actual act of like getting his head chopped off and more about like his own personal quest and like his arc as a person.
Like it's something he wants to do and it's something he knows he needs to do.
Yeah.
Like I think that realization is obviously kind of what the movie's about.
I did want to get into a little bit of like our interpretations of the movie because I do think it's a lot to unpack and there's a lot of different ways that you could take the film. So I did want to ask you, there's a green band that he's given
Mm-hmm.
from, I think his mother gives it to him at the beginning,
Yeah.
and then it like comes back to him in a way when he's with the Lord and Lady, I guess you would call them, the
Yeah.
second character that Alicia Vikander plays, and she gives it to him and says, "You can never be struck down if you're wearing it."
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of wanted to ask you, like, what did you think that symbolized? Because it is kind of a big thing towards the end when he
Mm-hmm.
takes it off, and then he's like right before he says, "I'm ready," he has to like take that off.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's anything I can like nail down as something it symbolizes. Obviously, it's something like at the end, it's a very like um, it's a moment of like letting go of everything and just being like, no, I'm facing this. I think it's just like it could be obviously like a thing of like shame, obviously, because what happens with that rag. I don't know if we want to get too into it, but like at the Lord and Lady's house, which is one of the most insane, not insane, but just like, I don't think I've ever seen that in a movie. We don't get a lot of that these days.
Yeah, that was kind
Um,
of
a
yeah.
little strange, a little strange. But I don't know. I feel like my take on this is kind of like, um, I don't know. For me, I think it's all a test kind of set up by the mother.
I think the symbolism of the band kind of plays into a little bit the that one monologue scene that Alicia Vikander has where she kind of talks about green and like the meaning of green and stuff. That was like a there definitely was like a lot to unpack in that one scene, and I still feel like I need to see it again to like
Yeah.
really pick apart everything she's saying in that bit. It kind of felt
Mhm.
a little bit like there's a scene in A Ghost Story where this old man is like sitting at a table and he kind of has this very like philosophical conversation about what life means and how we're all like a speck of dust in time and stuff.
Mhm.
So um, it's like another scene like that where a character kind of explains the main theme of the movie or like what the movie's about. So
Mhm.
that's one thing I thought was kind of interesting was David Lowery has in both of these movies a scene where a character kind of encapsulates like the meaning of the film.
Mhm.
Um, but going back to the Green Knight, there's so in that scene she kind of talks a little bit about how there's one line where she says something like green is what comes after lust and like the aftermath of lust or something. So there's lust and then there's green.
Mhm.
So I thought maybe that could mean that like that, Gawain is like has this lust and like this longing for being alive and like doing what he wants to do and not really fulfilling his honor and his quest. And that's what he wants. But then after that, once he gets that, there's just this shame and this like just emptiness kind of. And I think that's kind of what the green represents. And also to back that up, there's a scene towards the end, like during the whole montage sequence where he's like sitting on the throne as the king while that whole war is happening like around them.
Mhm.
And the lighting is green. So I thought that was symbolizing that like he's like just captured in this shame and this like feeling of guilt,
Okay.
and they were really trying to like emphasize that through the lighting.
Yeah.
So, and then I think when he takes that off, he like lets go of that. Like when he takes off the band before, and then he says, "I'm ready." I think he's letting go of his shame and like the guilt that he could have if
Mhm.
he were to continue down the path of just doing what's easy. Also, one thing that I did want to mention is that it's so nice to see a movie like this where like the so much of it is like shot on location and there's such an emphasis on like practical effects and like real costumes and sets and things like that. But then also there is like a big chunk of CGI in the movie, like, you know, a lot of the creatures, the bit with the giants that you see, and so like they definitely did use a handful of
Yeah.
CGI, but like it's done to complement
Yeah.
the
It all
actual
looked
like
really
look of
good.
the film, you know, and like so there's like a really great blend of practical and CG that like you don't really see that often now, and especially with like a fantasy movie like this, I just feel like I
Yeah.
haven't seen something like that in a while.
Yeah. No, I mean it's really special also because I feel like this is A24 cashing in a lot of their chips. Like, um, it feels like one of their more expensive movies, if not their most expensive, just because obviously they're on location in Ireland. Um, you know, they like you said, like they have these big CGI sequences. They have sequences that are trippy and they have to like put their money in. And then you look at like all the costumes. You look at the Green Knight himself. Like obviously, I'm sure that that is a pain to put on, take off, but it all looks fantastic. And I think that's just like, you know, as much as obviously me and you, we're both big into the Marvel movies. We like
Uh,
them. We're fans. But like, I think that's the main problem that Marvel has is just like, you guys are just shooting on these sound stages on these green screens where they're just like, there's really nothing there. And obviously that gives you a lot of freedom to like create your own worlds and everything like that, but it still just kind of feels a little fake at the end of the day.
yeah, yeah,
Whereas you see this and you're like I kind of said earlier, like this is a movie. Like this
totally.
is people like went out to Ireland, they filmed it like you said, like they just added these elements in afterwards. But like it, like I said, like this movie has a texture to it. And you
Totally.
feel it transports you to that world.
The one scene, like the scene where he's watching the giants walk in front of him, I actually like felt like awe when I saw that. I thought it
Yeah,
like just looked so damn cool, and like
yeah.
it's been a while since a movie like did that for me. You know, there were
There's
some,
a scale to it.
yeah, there's definitely like a scope and scale that this movie has. It's just really interesting to watch play out, and you know, like it reminded me a little bit of Lord of the Rings, like how you know there's definitely like a handful of CGI in Lord of the Rings. I mean, for the time it was really like groundbreaking, but there's also like a really nice mix of practical effects in those movies too, and it makes the world feel like lived in and real
Yeah.
and authentic. One more thing that I did want to discuss before we kind of get into our verdicts, the sequence towards the end, which so really like the final confrontation between Gawain and the Green
Yeah.
Knight, when he finally gets there,
The
and
actual
it's just
chopping
like
off. Yeah.
yeah, it's just like him waiting, and then like you know it cuts to like nighttime, and then like he kind of opens his eyes a little bit, and then he like closes them, and then he's still waiting, and then he finally gets up, and they have the whole interaction together. That scene, just like on its own, was so like majestic to me. I just like
Yeah.
loved the. It just felt so like surreal. There was some like quality to it that like
Yeah.
was so. It just felt like magical, like watching that scene play out. I just thought it was so cool.
And I kind of love, I don't know how you felt during it, but like, I love how that scene has a really darkly comic energy to it. Like,
Yeah,
honestly, every line out of the Green Knight's mouth, I'm kind of like giggling a little bit to myself. It's just like,
totally. Yeah.
well, like one of the big laugh lines of the movie is like, let's get to hacking. And I just, that's
Yeah.
hysterical. That's so funny.
The
Um,
last line of the movie cracked me up
the last line of the movie's great. The
when he's
last
like,
line of the movie's so
"Off
good.
of your head." I just like laughed the first
Yeah.
time I saw it, but it was so like darkly funny.
Yeah.
I just thought that was
No, I
cool.
mean, my theater had the same reaction, and even just like the cut to the Green Knight title card, which, dude, that's something I want to talk about real quick. The way David Lowery is calling his shot at the beginning of this movie because here's the deal. It's one of those weird things, like the way credits work. But like, I love a movie that's just like has the like like I said, like the call on the shot. Like we're gonna put the title at the end of the movie. We're gonna
Oh
give
yeah.
you the drop at the end. It's gonna be epic. But like the way he's setting it up at the beginning, where he's like, um, an adaptation of the Chivalric Romance by Anonymous,
Uh-huh.
and then like the 4 or 5 title cards of Sir Gawain, Sir Gawain, Sir Gawain. And
Uh-huh.
then I'm waiting at the beginning. I'm like, is he gonna give it to me? Come on, give it to me. And then like he's like, not yet, not yet. I'm gonna give it to you, but just you wait. And then when it finally comes in at the end, it's little stuff like that. I know it's not like the most like has the most meaning or like the most impact in the movie, but I love when a director's just like I'm gonna do this fun shit with the titles and like all that kind of stuff. Like I
Oh
like
yeah.
it.
Whenever a director like puts the title card like at the end of the movie, that's when you know like they made some good shit. Like
Like I
Christopher
feel
Nolan.
like Nolan was the one who kind of ushered that in. Like when we're all watching like, and there's that title card at the end, The Dark Knight, and you're just like, whoa, wow,
Totally.
okay,
Oh yeah.
wow, this guy's operating on another. He put the title at the end of the movie. Wow, that's crazy. Like it's a small thing that I like, but I like how David Lowery saw that and was like, I'm gonna do this the best that anybody's ever done it, and just like the mic drop at the end of it is like really great.
All right, so that's our thoughts on The Green Knight. I loved the movie. I think it's a really interesting, unique, creative vision, and to see a fantasy movie with this type of scope and scale, and just to watch the journey play out, it was just like a really amazing theatrical experience. And I'm glad we still get movies like this. I feel like not a lot of movies come around like this. Dev Patel is fantastic in it. I love the look of the film. I love the emphasis on practical effects, but also there's a really great use of CGI in the film that kind of aids the look and feel of the movie. And yeah, it was just a really great movie. Think it might be the best movie I've seen so far this year, and I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 9 out of 10.
All
So
right,
Brendan, if you had to give a verdict, what would you give it?
all right. So I'm a lot with you. I agree. This is one of my favorites of the year so far. I know you're not on me with this, but like F9 and this are like neck and neck for like what's my favorite so far. I
That's
know,
fine.
I know. Listen, I like it. I'm a
Hey,
fan.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. That's all I gotta say.
I had a blast with it. But like it's like I was saying before, like it gives you that feeling again that we've been searching for the last 2 years. It's just like wow, a fucking movie. Like let's go. I think the direction is on point. I think all the actors are fantastic. Like we've sung enough praise about how good this movie looks and how well visually the story is told. I think I agree. It's one of the best movies of the year, if not the best movie of the year so far. Um, like the first truly great movie of the year, I'd probably say. And yeah, I don't know. I'm teetering between 9 or 10. I really want to give it that 10 because it is like one of the most full like movie theater, well, not even movie, just like movie watching experiences I've had with a new movie in a long, long time. So yeah, why not? Let's give it a 10 out of 10. I'm in. Let's go. Green
Nice.
Knight, baby.
Awesome.
Let's do it all day long.
I would almost give it a 10. I just think like sometimes the pacing isn't like all the
It
way
does
there
drag.
for me.
Yeah.
Like there's just some scenes that drag just a hair, like just a little bit. But
But also that's going on a journey though. Like even Lord of the Rings has those moments where you're just like, yeah, and we're walking. We're
yeah,
walking
you do kind of
here.
have to have like
That's
some of
just kind
that.
of baked into the cake. Because I agree. Like there's moments where I'm just like, I want to get to this thing, please. Can we get to this thing, please? I know it's coming up. Like I want this. Like I get it.
Yeah,
He's
totally.
walking. We're walking.
Definitely deserves the big screen treatment. All right, Brendan, would you like to plug your YouTube channel or anything else?
For sure. Me and Matthew Brown, we have our YouTube channel, Few Good Movies, where we review some current movies, some older movies, but we just kind of like me and Fletch just did. We just kind of go back and forth for a while, talking about movies, what we like about them, what we don't like. Um, we can put the link in the description or something like that. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Bren Diesel 910 on Instagram, Bmurph 910 on Twitter. and all that kind of stuff.
Brendan, thank you so much for joining me for this video. I really appreciate it. And thank you guys for watching this. Can't tell you how much that means to me. Look forward to more videos very soon. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.